Welcome back to This Week in Agriculture. I'm still joined by Linda, and we are still having a conversation on the topics that made headlines in the agricultural sector in the past week. And now, Linda, let's look at another topic. In a hamming factory in Kenya's highland, tea is hand-picked in the field, culled and shredded into the fine leaves that have gratified drinkers from London to Pakistan for generations. But Kenya's prized black tea isn't fetching the prices it once did, forcing the top suppliers of the world's most popular drink to try something else.
These women have hand-picked tea in Kenya's highlands for years. The process of curing and shredding the leaves has remained the same for decades. But Kenya's prized black tea is not fetching the prices it once did, forcing the top supplier of the world's most popular drink to try something new. Factory workers are experimenting with a range of boutique teas, deviating from decades of tradition in the quest for new customers and a buffer against unstable prices.
Predominantly we produce what they call cut and curl, CTCT. That's what Kenya has produced predominantly. And we are now trying to diversify to orthodox teas, the type that Sri Lanka produces. Now that orthodox tea will enable us to enter new markets such as Russia and those other states around Russia.
Workers in Munyao are being retrained in the production of orthodox tea, a slower, more delicate process that preserves the leaf for a more flavourful result. This range is still being perfected at Gitugi factory, with the aim of selling it in new markets where whole leaf tea is savoured.
A country like Russia, they look at the blackness of the leaf, but they also want the experience of a good cup of tea. But the key critical item is how the leaf looks like. They prefer bolder whole leaf.
The shift towards orthodox teas has been costly, with the change in working culture also proving to be a challenge for farmers and labourers. But with prices for Kenya's traditional, finely cut tea falling, the risk was necessary to take.
Tea is a commodity, and as you know, with commodities, prices are very erratic and are ever changing. Unlike costs are forever going up. So to safeguard the smallholder, for KTDA to safeguard the smallholder farmer, one of the things that the board decided was to diversify to other products, starting with black orthodox.
The Kenyan tea industry hopes that the shift will bear fruit in the long run, with custom varieties and infusions of orthodox teas often being sold at higher prices. But orthodox and specialty ranges still represent only a tiny fraction of Kenya's tea exports. Critics say that the Kenya Tea Development Agency has been slow to adapt. The decision to branch out into new products was taken in 2000, but by the end of 2019, just 11 of its 69 factories are expected to be producing orthodox tea.
What is your take on tea and the tea prices that farmers have been complaining about?
I would complain if last year for the same produce I fetched 28 shillings per kilo, and this year I fetch 14. So I think there's definitely reason for them to complain, because they had planned in advance and they had hoped that they would get an X value for their crop, and now they get less than that. So definitely, I mean, it's reasonable that you'd find farmers complaining. Yeah.
But according to the Kenya Tea Development Agency, they said the condition last year were not good enough, were not good for tea farmers, especially if you look at countries in the Middle East. Most of them were the ones buying tea from Kenya. And there was a lot of violence and problems in the Middle East. So a lot of those countries were not able to buy as much tea as they used to do. Do you think KTDA sensitized farmers early enough, or warned them early enough that the prices might be, or the bonuses might drop? Could that be the problem why farmers were complaining?
I'm not an agricultural expert, but I know that dried tea is not, a perishable product like flowers or vegetables. And so if the market isn't buying right now, if I'm holding dried tea or black tea or, it should be able to hold on, or I should be able to move it to another market. So is it that the product was then not sold and therefore it's being held and we then anticipate a better price tomorrow? Maybe there's need for more better communication to farmers to be able to know what's coming. But just based on what you've said, if I was a farmer, I'd be asking myself a few questions.
what should be expectation by farmers now that even the weather has changed? So we know tea grows largely in cooler places,
Yes.
but the weather is changing. So could this also affect their production?
You see, if it's raining a lot and there's a lot of sunshine, that means increased production, so that's a good thing for farmers. But I know that the driver for tea prices is mostly quality, so farmers need to focus on ensuring that their product meets the required quality. And I think KTDA harvests high quality tea, and their tea from KTDA factories is actually used to blend other teas from other Kenyan producers and producers from other parts of the world as well, because of that good quality and taste. So I would want to believe that KTDA has good plans and that they would be able to give better information to farmers when they anticipate challenges like this. Because if people are going to be surprised by the prices in the negative because it's less, then of course you expect, some discomfort and lots of noise from farmers. So prior information would be good. And, just to explain to them what's going on in the market.
Indeed, agriculture is the backbone of this economy, and I'm sure we can do more as a country. But for now, we'll leave that topic at that and move on. Small-scale farmers in parts of Western Kenya are slowly abandoning traditional crops like sugar and maize for high-value crops like macadamia, which they say fetches more in the market and likely to change their lives for the better. Farmers at Bwake Ward in Bungoma County are characterized by a dry maize crop, while some have young, well-green sugarcane crop. Harakashoke village is a farm of its kind. Here, you are ushered in by an orchard with different fruit varieties. There are short-flowered mango trees, well-fruited pawpaw trees, some gooseberry plants, avocado, as well as macadamia trees in the 1 acre farm.
We first did an experimental 1 acre orchard where we planted a lot of fruits and plants. The whole idea was so that we want farmers to embrace environmental friendly farming that is commercially viable.
He did not take the mangoes because when the frost falls, which is a common occurrence here, it destroys all the fruits. Finally, Waholi decided to venture into macadamia farming. Although macadamia trees take longer to mature, he says, he will be patient as he is optimistic that he will not only earn handsomely, but also spend less money and time on labor. He is eyeing a macadamia processing plant at Bungoma town for ready markets.
When we settled, we realized that macadamia takes long to mature, around 5 years to 7 years before the production can begin. So we also settled on intercrops. And the intercrops we settled on was essential oil herbs, that is mint, rosemary, and lemongrass.
Over the last 2 months, Wakoli has planted over 350 macadamia trees in his 5 acre farm to ensure that he keeps of weeds. The benefits from the farm as the crop matures. He wisely chose to intercrop the macadamia with sweet potato vines. He got certified sweet potato vine seeds from the Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization (KALRO) in Bungoma. He has a ready market at a local flour processing plant, which he says mills sweet potato to flour for sale.
Once after the proof of concept where we are sure this is what is economically viable and sustainable to smallholder farmers, we now have come into agreement with certified seedling suppliers where we are sourcing it on behalf of farmers and selling to farmers the macadamia seedlings and the potato vines.
Like many other farmers, Wakoli is eyeing opportunities to benefit maximally from macadamia farming in a bid to improve this value chain. The United Nations Industrial Development Organization UNIDO, with funding from the European Union, will be running a 4-year project that will empower stakeholders in the macadamia value chain. The project aims at promoting standards and expanding markets both locally, regionally, as well as internationally. As a country, do we need to should we be encouraging our farmers every time they have problems with their crop, they move on to another one?
I wouldn't say that, but I would say yes to diversification, because assuming I'm a farmer and I have, say, 5 acres, what is on that 5 acres? If I can have more different types of things to grow on my 5 acres, then definitely yes. But speaking of macadamia, being the climate person that I am, or the environmentalist, I'm really happy for macadamia to be one of these new trends that we should go into. First, because it's a tree. You know, it will have a positive impact on our climate and on our environment, so that's really good. But also, in the last season, macadamia was fetching up to 200 shillings per kilo, and that's in the kernel, you know, so that's a really good price. And I think, and a tree, macadamia tree, can produce lots of nuts, so it's a very good option for farmers.
Which other crops do you think will still add value to a farmer, but also add value to the environment?
You see, most tree-based crops are good. They are good because, again, macadamia doesn't mean you have to uproot everything else to grow it. You can intercrop it with almost any other crop that you have on the farm, so that's a good one. Maybe other tree crops like fruit crops, again, those are good for the environment because they are trees, and they also have the added benefit of being money or income generating crops as well. So tree crops would definitely be, you know, a good idea to go. We've heard of avocado recently from our leadership. So again, if we can get it right and organize ourselves properly as farmers to be able to provide good quality product to the market, we have all to benefit. It's a, you know, it's a great thing.
For example, if we keep reducing the acreage on crops that we used to grow for food, what does that mean to the food security for this country?
The biggest threat to our food security is not just replacement of food crops with other non-food crops. The biggest threat to our agriculture is the fragmentation that we're having of our land, where we are dividing our land into smaller and smaller portions, and therefore having smaller and smaller land area available for food crops. Also, a lot of land is being converted for non-agricultural uses, and that, I think, poses quite a big challenge. I think our country needs to look keenly, our leadership needs to look very keenly at the areas that we are converting, say, into residential, because you'll find that most areas that are high value for crop or agricultural production are being converted into other uses like industrial, for, you know, to set up factories and economic zones and that kind of thing.
We also remember that for a very long time, our farmers have been growing crops on the same piece of land, and the same crops. Is it the fault of the farmer, or is it the fault of the policymakers for failing to advise the farmers that either you need to rotate or you need to, I even don't know if they've ever done their soil test to know what is missing. Where do you think we go wrong as a country?
We have to take responsibility as individuals or as farmers, and leadership needs to take responsibility as leaders, because we all have a role to play. And if each party was playing its role appropriately, then we can be able to have a very robust agricultural system in our country. So there's need for people to take responsibility for their own actions. You know, we have to change our mentality and understand that change begins with me, even at my own farm. Like planting trees within the farm, it is proved that it makes your farm actually a healthier place, because, you know, you'll have more birds coming, and they'll, you know, have their droppings will have a positive impact on your farm. If you allow, you know, vegetation to grow actively, they are beneficial, what we call weeds. Some of them are beneficial even in pest control. We just have to be more proactive as farmers. But again, as we had said earlier, agricultural extension services are very, very critical, because some farmers are not doing things because they don't know what to do.
Let's hope the government will listen to us and do more, and maybe reintroduce the extension officers. We've really talked about how important they used to be. President Uhuru Kenyatta on Tuesday sacked Mwangi Kiunjuri, who was the CS for Agriculture, in far-reaching changes in his cabinet. Kiunjuri sparked memes on social media when he told Kenyans to take pictures of insects they suspected were locusts and post them on their social media to enable government officials strategize on tackling them after swarms were spotted in Mandera, Wajir, Isiolo, Meru, and Kirinyaga. Replacing him is Peter Munyao, who was moved from the Ministry of Industrialization.
Na Kiunjuri Tujue ya kwamba sasa mchezo umeisha.
A warning perhaps just as weighty as a swarm of locusts sizing up a ground target for a feast.
Kweli lazima usemwe.
And to Festus Mwangi Kionjori, who in the past few days has appeared to lose the battle against the stubborn insects invading different parts of the country. It was only a matter of time before his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, cracked the whip.
No, the ones I haven't mentioned are because they are either in place. If they are not in place, then yeah, so be it. Kenya moves on.
But the former CS says never say die. Speaking only hours after his sacking, Kionjori maintains he can only leave cabinet with his shoulder held high.
There is a door down the road. As you say in Kikoyo, Mumagari Newaji Waigire. Loosely translated, one who is on a journey should and is always ready for any eventuality.
But just how did Kionjori find himself in cabinet? And when might he have fallen out with his boss President Kenyatta? Former devolution CS Anne Waiguru had in 2015 resigned from cabinet requesting the president for lighter duties after the now infamous 791 million shillings National Youth Service scandal. To fill the void at the powerful docket, Kenyatta went hunting for another pair of hands. This turned out to be Kionjori, a former Laikipia East legislator then reeling from the shock of losing in the Laikipia governorship in 2013. A seat insiders say the president dissuaded Kionjori from contesting in 2017 with the promise of retaining his seat in cabinet, which after the polls turned out to be the agriculture docket. But Kionjori's goose might have been cooked early 2018 when investigative agencies unearthed a multi-billion shilling scandal at the National Cereals and Produce Board, domiciled under Kionjori's Agriculture Ministry. A scandal that at one point saw the president publicly turn his anger on Kionjori during the 2018 Nairobi Agriculture Trade Fair. Yet Kionjori was not yet out of the woods over his outspokenness politically. The president's warning in Nakuru hours after sacking Kionjori, pointing to likely similar shakeups in the future.
Hii ni mwaka ya kazi. Wale ambao mambo yao ni kutumia nafasi yote, ikiwa hakuna kazi ni kusimama hapa, ni siasa, waende watafute biashara yao, wapige siasa huko.
In this world, we are born with nothing and depart with nothing. We wield power for a time and leave it to others.
Kionjori's replacement with former industrialization CS Peter Munyao and the entry of politician former Nyeri Senator Mutahi Kagwe to the cabinet drawing mixed reactions.
He has experience both as a politician and as a minister. So in a difficult docket, because health is difficult, I think he felt he needed to bring Mutahi for those reasons.
It was just timely, the reshuffle he did. And we hope the government now will be more rejuvenated and really deliver and look into the issues affecting the ordinary man.
And as Kionjori joins HSR in the list of CSs fired under Kenyatta's second term, the cabinet reshuffle is no doubt poised to escalate political heat as the Kenyatta succession politics continue.
Linda, yes. What is your take on Uhuru's reshuffle of his cabinet?
I think without going too much on the political side, I would say that I think he felt he needed to make changes, and so he went ahead and did what he thought would be best for his government and his legacy. But specifically for Kionjori, I would guess he also had other reasons which have been in the media for a while now.
When he told us to take pictures of insects that we see and post them so that the government can tell us whether they were the locusts we are talking about, and maybe also the government to strategize. Do you think that was a good move by him, by now turning the entire country into spotters of the locust?
What he should have just done is, had a big campaign on this is what the locust looks like at its various stages of life, and this is who you need to contact when you see this creature, because, you know, he kind of invited the Kenyans are very creative, so it's a pity, but yeah, it was self-inflicted.
The Ministry of Agriculture is a very important ministry in this country. Over the years, do you think even the previous governments really take this ministry very seriously?
I think behind every minister or every cabinet secretary, there's a very heavy team of people on the ground that actually know what they're doing. We have, you know, different authorities, we have research institutions, and these are really serious institutions that know every single thing. Probably what our leaders need to be more sensitive about is to invite, you know, the professionals to listen to them just really closely so that they're able to portray the right image for themselves, you know, because if he could have sat, for example, with, you know, people from the desert locust control program that, you know, has been in existence, and, you know, Ministry of Agriculture officials, scientists in these particular fields, that have given him very good information and talking points that would have been very beneficial for himself, but also for the country. So there's all these very critical and very hardworking institutions behind the scenes that probably need to step out more. They need to come forward and give the information, because, I mean, in other places, you'll find that it's not just, if I was the CS, I don't have to be the one at the forefront all the time saying all the right things about agriculture. But, you know, if you have a good team that can back you up and they're able to stand and talk with figures and facts, it even makes the CSs look good. So there's always that opportunity. But again, we've had challenges with our leadership of our parastatals and authorities. And I think those are the key things that I believe the president would want to look into. Because if you have the right leadership in place and you have people that are really focused, you know, in the pesticide authorities, in the various departments of agriculture and other ministries, then we're able to get really good information being put out there and things actually working on the ground. So leadership is very important.
One of the reasons that the president gave for the reshuffle, he said it's time to work and not time to politics. Do you think as a country, as a Kenyan, do you think most of our leaders spend most of their time in politics than serving the interests of the country?
I wouldn't say most of our leaders, but I would say as a country we have put the spotlight so much on politicians and not so much on all the other great things that can be done or that are going on in our country. So I would say to the media as well that you also need to do more to shine less light on all these political stories that we see on the news and have more of, you know, these kind of discussions that we have, more interactions with Kenyans on the ground, and so that we're able to see all these positive things that, you know, young people are doing, that environmental people are doing, you know, things in waste management, what changes are we seeing. So we definitely, just definitely need to hear more stories from the ground and less stories from the political sphere. I mean, it's become too much, I would say.
Maybe I'll also give you an opportunity to give us a parting shot.
Okay. Maybe just to encourage our farmers and Kenyans out there that we need to be more vigilant. We need to be more conscious about our choices and our actions and the impact that we are having on the environment. We just need to be more alert and more cautious and do more. You know, Wangari Maathai said, unless you actually go out and plant a tree, as long as you're talking about the tree, what tree you want to plant, how the tree will look, how it will grace your garden, until you actually soil your hands and do something, then, you know, you're wasting time. So just know that there's a network of environmental professionals all over the country that are ready to help, that are willing and able to help farmers. People just need to reach out and, you know, we are ready and happy to help.
Thank you very much, Linda, for coming. I'm sure our viewers have really benefited from our conversation today. I'm sure we'll still have you another time for another conversation. But for now, that is it from This Week in Agriculture. I've been your host, Philip Keitang. Until next time, goodbye.